Welcome to the Michael Steele podcast. I'm Michael Steele. I'm excited for my guest today who's going to drop in from Jersey, none other than Joanne Carducci. She is known as JoJo from Jerz. She is a Twitter or X, whatever the hell they're calling it now, but she's a phenomenon. She's a mom, a Democrat, a news junkie, and a self-proclaimed hothead. She is the host of the podcast, Are You Effing Kidding Me? With JoJo from Jerz. Really looking forward to a pretty gritty conversation with that girl from Jersey, JoJo, right after this on the Michael Steele podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the Michael Steele podcast. Yeah, I'm blushing. Actually, I'm a little bit like Gaga right now because I've got JoJo from Jerz on with us. You know her and love her as JoJo from Jerz, but she's actually a mom and sort of a civic activist type. You know, she kind of keeps us honest, a news junkie like the rest of us. Joanne Carducci, it is such a joy to meet you.
Thank you. This is incredible for me. I'm trying not to fangirl. Full disclosure, I have a little bit of nerves because, I mean, I am at the end of the day just a mom in Jersey, and I've obviously known who you are for a very long time. So I'm so honored to be here right now. This is really cool for me.
It's going to be a fun conversation. We were talking a little bit before we got started about your family members and others that you know who are Republicans. And sometimes you must sit there and scratch your head and go, what the hell happened to these people? Once they were normal. You could actually engage in a civic conversation with them and just kind of, and all of a sudden now it's just bombastic bullshit flying from one end to the other. How have you processed the last, really, when you think about it, like you said, you're a mom, you're engaged in your community, you're watching this stuff, you're raising your family, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, I can't have my kids exposed to this. So what the hell is going on? How have you processed this whole period that we're in?
I gotta say, again, I grew up, most of my family is Republican and most of my family is military. And so I grew up in that world, and I learned at a pretty young age that I wasn't aligned ideologically with my Republican family members. But
yeah, I had that same conversation in my household.
Right. Oh, you had Democrats?
Yeah, they were all Democrats.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, so you understand. But the thing that you probably understand as well, especially with my dad, was because I went to school in Boston. So my dad would drive me up to Emerson, and we would have 4-hour plus long car rides of conversations where we didn't agree ideologically, but we were able to have those conversations anyway. And so when they say this isn't your father's Republican Party anymore, that really is true, right. Literally true. But there's been this process for me, and I think I get accused of this a lot, and I will admit that I often give Republicans, even to this day, more credit than they're due, because I think sometimes, they can't possibly go that far. They can't jump the shark that much.
Right.
But I thought that the escalator moment was going to be a punchline, and that was going to be it, that he was going to be a running joke. I thought that grab them by the you-know-what was going to be a red line. I thought that January 6th was going to untether them once and for all. And so knowing what Republicans were versus what they are now is really hard to grapple with. And I have members of my family who voted for him twice. Right. And it just, I can't wrap my brain around it. But yeah, to your point about my kids, that's what this is all about for me. Because after 2016, when I told them that they should wake up to the first woman president-elect because right would prevail, and that didn't happen, I've been on a crusade since then to right that wrong. That's what it's all about.
Let's talk about the crusade, because I remember someone had liked a tweet that you put out, and I read the tweet, and then I had to read it again. And then I actually read it a third time, and I went, this woman just lost her mind. She is absolutely, they have put her over the edge. I can't believe she just, I mean, you slammed, I mean, you took a Mack truck and drove it into the body politic in a way that I hadn't seen. And so I'm like, okay, who is this? He's from Jersey. But then I said, okay, she's from Jersey. I get it. All right.
That's
okay.
it. Yeah.
I get part of this. She's from Jersey. But that social engagement of yours, which is, it's raw, it is authentic, it's honest, and it does rub people. I mean, I look at your feed sometimes and the responses, particularly now that Elon Musk has completely deconstructed the administrative state of Twitter. And made it a hellscape for just, you know, MAGA crazy and conspiracy theories, which is all that I see now it populated in my feed. But I was reading some of the comments and I'm like, oh my God, she not only struck a nerve, she is like twisting around the nerve. What is it? I mean, when you're in that moment and you're just like, you know, I'm just gonna let these fools know what I'm thinking. And you do.
Yeah.
How is that? How did that evolve for you to have, I mean, because that look, you know, JoJo, that takes a little bit of courage to do that, to kind of put yourself out there that way, right?
Oh yeah, no, I had a conversation with my dear friend Rachel Vindman yesterday on this very subject, because she and I are like-minded in many ways in that regard. And it's not like I just woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go on Twitter and I'm gonna hopefully stoke some death threats and some people will get really mad. Some guy put a Facebook video up the other day that was actually terrifying, but he's in Australia, I hope. But it was really, he was very upset. But it's been a process, but also I think my life has changed dramatically in the last few years. I was married before Donald Trump and I am not married now. And that's been a process.
Wow.
And I had to kind of find myself and my voice in that process.
So Trump actually wasn't the result, you know, the cause of the
Well, no.
I mean, when you said that, I was like, let's be clear. Did Donald Trump like show up at your house and just like
oh hell no. No. Oh my God. That would be terrifying. And I honestly don't know how I would handle it. But I mean, my son used to joke, because Trump National's not too far from here, when he was little. I guess he kind of got the sense that he wasn't a good guy. So he used to joke that he wanted to throw a blueberry pie at the sign, the Trump National sign. So I'd probably have to arm myself with a blueberry pie if Trump showed up here. But in a very strange way, Trump is actually sort of responsible tangentially, because before that escalator, before the rapist comment, before the grab him by the you-know-what, I was sort of unplugged from all of that and sort of just flailing in this suburban life where I was losing my sense of identity. And I majored in politics and stuff. So I felt like I was flailing. And then he came on the scene and sort of like woke me up a little bit. And then day by day, I woke up more. Yeah. And that process actually was sort of the, let's say, origin point for me and my marriage kind of ending, because I was coming to more awareness about myself and my voice, which Twitter was actually a strange partner in as well.
Yeah.
So the more I got out there, the more I just spoke my mind and shared my authentic self, the more I was like, hell, this feels good. And people seem to resonate. It seems to resonate with them. They seem to like it. And so I don't know how to be anybody other than this. So what you see reflected in those tweets is just me, just being like, this is what I think. If you don't like it, don't beat it. If you like it and you feel it, share it. If not, so be it.
Yeah, you create a space where you're actually having a conversation. You're telling people your side of the story, if you will. And my approach has been pretty much of, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Here's a platform I can share that. I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm not asking for you to respond to it. You can if you want to. God bless you. But you know, it's interesting how certain people have that ability to just go right to the nerve of the conversation and really draw out, like you said, this guy from Australia, halfway around the globe, is like, you know, opining and doing a Facebook video, or you know, about the musings of a mom from New Jersey. Because that's what he break it down. When you really break it down, there's a mom from New Jersey who put something up on a platform and everybody's freaking out. She's not an elected official, right? You don't control any of the arms of government. You don't have a military. So
I wish.
I,
Oh, yeah.
so what is it then that that is your superpower, that gets people so freaked out of their brain that they gotta post what they post, say what they say? Do you think they're thinking, well, I'll show her, I'll hurt her with my words? I mean, what is it that causes, what is that superpower that you think you have that just really pisses people off when you tell them what you think about Trump and Republicans and politics?
I think they don't like that I don't care what they think. Honestly, I think that really pisses them off, because they will try every which way till Sunday to try to hurt me. I mean, look, they have created the narrative that I am a meth addict who's had her kids stripped. They have a whole mugshot that is not me. I've lost my kids. I'm a meth addict. I can't even see my kids, apparently. I've also been married and divorced 11 times. And they will come after me every which way they can, because they can't figure out how
that
to
is
get
too funny.
down. I won't stop. I don't care. I'm 49 years old. I lived sort of under an oppressive sort of suburban thumb for decades, and I'm not doing it anymore. And look out, because I don't care what they think. I'm not stopping.
So this is one of the this is one, folks. I'm just telling you, if you don't, you have to follow JoJo from Jerz, because this is just a slight appetizer of what Joe shares. So we all know I will get into a little bit more detail in a moment, the whole Florida bullshit from Ron DeSantis, who's pretending now that, well, I don't run my Department of Education. I don't know what they do. Oh my. But at the same time, emphasizing and re-emphasizing his crusade against woke, which he can't define because he doesn't really know what it is. And their decision to basically tell Black people, well, y'all should have been happy because y'all learned some skills from slavery that you otherwise probably would not have learned. So if we hadn't enslaved your great-great-grandparents, they wouldn't have been blacksmiths, and they wouldn't have been maids, and they wouldn't have been. So anyway, your response was, quote, "Dear Republicans, here we effing go again. There was no, quote, upside to slavery. There was no fucking benefit to being a slave. And if you're actually out there saying that, quote, Jews survived the Holocaust by being useful, then perhaps you need to be reminded, just for starters, that Jews were sorted the day they arrived in some camps and were immediately murdered. And that doesn't even begin to describe the atrocities carried out against those human beings, irrespective of any consideration of usefulness. What you're suggesting is grotesque, so just fucking stop." It goes on. And if you're saying this twisted shit for clicks is, and that's your reference to yourself. And if you're saying this twisted shit for clicks, or just because you think it will distract us from the shit show that is your hateful cult of a party, then it's even more reprehensible. So fuck you. Frankly, fuck you anyway. So, end quote. That was just a small example of one of the things that drew me to you from the very beginning. Now, and the point is, you lay it out the way real people talk about it. And I think that's the thing. That's the superpower that they can't account for, because that's a conversation you have at the neighborhood, watering hole. That's a conversation you have around the kitchen table, with adults. You send the kids out of the room for some of what you said there. But
Yeah.
but I think that's part of it, that you just kind of say, let me just break this down for you. And so put it in terms that I know you will understand. And as a byproduct, everyone else understands it too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, something I learned pretty quickly about the way that I absorb information is if you put it into terms that everybody can understand in these bite-sized digestible pieces, that it's easier to understand it, break it down. And they are very complex issues, obviously, but at the end of the day, these aren't really very complex issues. Like, those are very obvious statements to make, that that there's no upside to slavery, that there wasn't a benefit to it. Like, I mean, that's insane, but it wasn't enough for them to just say that. So they realized how much traction that story started getting, because you know better than anybody that as much of it that is about them actually saying and meaning the hateful thing, the other side that they really want too is the distraction side. I really think that's a huge component, because they don't have platform or policy anymore. They're a party of this kind of outrage sort of manufacturing and, you know, cult of personality worship and stuff. So they don't have any substance anymore. So this is what they have. But I again, like, I just don't have time to waste reading other people's stuff that is highfalutin when we're talking about something so basic and intrinsic as this. And that's the way I think. That's the way I talk. If I were to, like you said, go to the water cooler and have a conversation with a coworker, this is the kind of thing I would say.
Right.
And yeah, that's it. No punches pulled. This is just who I am. And I feel like, I think Democrats sometimes think, oh, that's not for us. You know, we're like, you
Oh my God,
know,
that's some of the most polite people in I'm like, you people clearly don't know how to do politics. There's nothing
they
polite
think we're
about
on
this
a
sport.
they think we're still on a polo field. We're in the mud right now.
Yeah, that's
Like,
exactly.
you cannot be having these conversations from up here when the fight is down here. I hate
Right.
saying you got to meet them where they are, but you do in many ways, because you know they're really good at messaging and breaking things down into these little sayings and slogans, and they're very successful at that. So I think Democrats need to take the gloves off a little bit more than they have.
Well, and I think a big part of it is, one of the things that, I've learned in politics for over a long time is the art of conveying a thought, formerly known as communication, and how I get you drawn into the point I want to make, whether you want to go or not. And that's the trick, to draw someone into something that they are more than likely resistant to, but you get them involved in a way that you get or elicit a reaction, because that's the goal, eliciting a reaction. And being able to communicate that in a way that resonates across lines. So you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but I find what you're saying intriguing, yes, entertaining, but also I'm getting the point. And that, whether I'm a Republican who agrees with you or a Republican who disagrees with you, I'm still getting the point. And the reaction is going to be one of, you go, girl, or that bitch, and it's going to be, and that what I read is going to give that kind of reaction from the reader. You're going to find where you are in the point that were making, which was one of saying, shame on you if you actually think that there was a benefit to slavery. And don't even think you're going to go play the Jew card on me and start talking about the Holocaust, because that ain't going to get you off of this one, because that was just as bad, So you sort of create the box rhetorically, which is what good political discourse does. It creates that space that it wants to draw you into, and it would like to keep you there for a while. Donald Trump, despite what everyone says about him, is extremely good at that, because he's kept his listeners drawn into that space for now damn near 8 years. Mm-hmm. And not only are they drawn to that message, but they then react the way he wants them to react. He elicits the responses that he wants. I'm curious, from your perspective, when you're looking at the landscape of voters out there, and particularly given suburban mom, you're living the dream in Jersey. What do you think is driving suburban women today? Because when I look at, I tell Democrats that's the weakest link in their armor are white suburban female voters. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And we'll just go back and look at who they're voting for. It's like, what is it that's driving them to look at a guy who wants to grab women by their private parts, put kids in cages, think that racism is fine because they're fine people who are racist, and the whole litany of things that we know about Trump, yet and still, my bet is right now, if the election were held today, he'd win that vote.
Well, so I think about this every day. I work with Red, Wine, and Blue, and that's what we do. We're trying to mobilize suburban women to stand up and to fight against particularly right-wing extremism, but also Donald Trump. But I also live in the suburbs, and I have friends here who don't want to talk about politics, and the populist things sort of reach them. This idea of like, wait, what is the grooming thing again, and what kind of books are being pushed in schools now? Somehow, and I don't know how. Again, we talked about this a little bit before. Somehow that Republican messaging, that fear mongering, the power of fear, right? It's so powerful. We've seen it throughout history that it can mobilize people to do things that they wouldn't rationally otherwise do. And I think for suburban women, that's one of the issues. I feel like the messaging of, hey, we're successful over here. Look, we're getting you healthcare and infrastructure, and we actually care about the environment and education. Somehow that's just it's not working. And it's like a bad restaurant review. They say you tell 20 people, but a good restaurant review, you might tell 5. It's kind of like that. So I feel like that's a messaging issue, but I also feel like they're not really understanding the full gravity of what's happening, but they're fatigued by all the conversations about Trump, which is terrifying to me. They don't want to talk about it. Even friends of mine who were activated after the grab him by the pussy comment, they are now like, I can't, another Trump story. I can't. He's never going to, let's be honest, he's never going to get charged. There's never going to be accountability. I don't even want to talk. So there's so many layers. And again, I think Republicans know that is an advantage they have, that they can sort of wear us down with the constant outrage and performance.
But how does that translate for those women to voting for him? I mean, I get the point of, oh my God, I just can't do this anymore. I'm tired of talking about it. Yes, he's not going to be held accountable. I know. Yeah. He's a scumbag, but I'm going to vote for him next November. I don't get that.
Well,
what am I missing?
There's that fear mongering thing. I know that there's the book banning conversation. I feel like it needs to be taken up more because it's definitely a problem at the moment. But I think a lot of suburban women might be thinking like, wait, are my kids being indoctrinated with that? Are they learning CRT? Which they're not.
Damn well. Come on, JoJo.
Well, so then
damn well their 7-year-old daughter in school is not learning CRT, because you know how you know they're not? Because A, they're not coming home talking some highfalutin shit that mama can't understand. B, if they go to parent-teachers meetings or they go to school board meetings, they know damn well what the curriculum is, and CRT ain't it. Right. So that tells me if they think their kids are being taught that, they're not engaged in the education of their children, that they're sitting their asses at home, just sending them out to school, and now bitching because some Republican asshole has told them, your child is learning CRT, and that's woke, we gotta stop. Come on, spare me.
Well, I agree with you there. And I think that at the end of the day, what might also be happening is that a lot of that is being used as sort of a cover for, what could really honestly
feel,
which is racism, right? Like that's
now we get into the heart of the conversation.
It's also weird, like misogyny in a strange way, where women have so often voted against their own self-interest because for some strange reason in the back of their mind, they like feel like that's actually their safety. Like the men will actually protect us, because so many women are sort of talking about indoctrinated, but indoctrinated with that from a very early age. Like if a boy pulls your hair when you're in 3rd grade, you're told he did it because he likes you.
Yeah.
If you're,
Not
if you're a
because he's a
loud, brash,
creep.
right. But if you're a loud, brash kid like me, I was, shocker, you get called a brat, aggressive, all the things, problematic.
Problematic. She's a
You can't just
problematic child.
I think I was definitely problematic. But these are the things that are so unfortunately ingrained in the minds of so many women, that I think when they go to vote, it's somewhere in the recesses of their mind, places they don't want to admit. But I also really think all of this, why so many people vote against their self-interest by voting for Republicans who are trying to take their social services from them, why so many people vote against themselves, is this racism issue. That, I believe, is the cradle all of this sits in. I really think that it's the fear, but there's this deep-seated idea, whether it's reactionary still to Barack Obama's presidency, I don't know, but I've seen it in my own family. I've seen them kind of lean into being more overt with their own comments that I never would have expected them to say in the past. But since Donald Trump shined a black light on all of this, they feel like they increasingly can say these things out loud. And I think that that's still the undercurrent for a lot of suburban women who know better, and a lot of people who vote against their self-interests in the middle of the Floridian swamp.
She is JoJo from Jerz, but we know her as Joanne Carducci as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get in some more politics with JoJo from Jerz right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Michael Steele podcast. Having this great conversation with someone that I really get a kick out of and enjoy reading on Twitter and following her musings about what folks like me do in politics. Joanne Carducci is my guest, also known as JoJo from Jerz. So JoJo, I want to play for you probably the best political ad of the year so far, and it was brought to us by none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Joe Biden had the largest public investment in social infrastructure and environmental programs that is actually finishing what FDR started, that LBJ expanded on, and Joe Biden is attempting to complete. Programs to address education, medical care, urban problems, rural poverty, transportation, Medicare, Medicaid, labor unions. And he still is working on it.
You cannot be that stupid. You cannot be that stupid and think that you're going to go up and you're going to lay out the litany of what Joe Biden has done, and the Joe Biden campaign is not going to go, oh, thank you. That was awfully nice of you to provide me with a 30-second ad. What the hell? The only thing I could tweet in response to that, to Marjorie Taylor Greene, was, way to own the lib. Because I cannot, that is basic politics. You do not cut your opponent's ad for them.
This isn't going to sound nice, and I know that I'm known for being nice, but I think there might be a tree stump in the middle of a Louisiana swamp that is smarter than Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I would not disagree.
That being said, my response to that video, I actually clipped it. I shared it. I said, oh no, they're on to us. Marjorie Taylor Greene has explained that Joe Biden wants to help Americans with education. He wants to help them in urban cities and in the rural city, in rural populations. He wants to do something about the infrastructure, all this stuff. I was like, well, I don't know how he survives this. And I knew they were going to cut that for an ad, because it was, I mean, you can't cut a better ad than this. Your opponent just used the things you have accomplished and plan on continuing to accomplish against you. And she was reading it off of a paper with her glasses because she's so smart, as
Right.
if it made it more like legitimate somehow. And honestly, I mean, it is the most effective ad, but it is a stark reminder that Joe Biden is doing this stuff and that they don't think any of that is worth like praising or applauding because they don't want to do any of that. That's so telling.
They don't, and it is very telling how because when you really stop and think about it, the only policy that was accomplished was a tax cut that did not benefit the middle class. And despite, and I've had Republicans sort of look at me in private conversations and go, yeah, I know. And we got to figure out how to navigate around that. I'm like, okay. But then I say, what else have you put out there? I mean, so Marjorie Taylor Greene is listing all these things that Joe Biden has done as if they're bad things for the country. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, in the political context, I'll take that. Now tell me what you've done or are planning to do, because it's easy for me to go, well, JoJo has hair, right? Okay. And what's your point? Right. You don't? Right. Yeah. Joe Biden has an infrastructure plan. Okay. Where's yours? And that's where Republicans find themselves now. They have nothing of substance to put on the table except grievance, anti-wokeness, and those things that prey on the fears that we were just talking about. Oh, those suburban moms, CRT's coming to a school near you, and that's it. Yeah. At some point, though, Joe, do you think people have to recognize, or do they even want to recognize, and maybe you've kind of answered this already, but do they even want to recognize what's happening in this space right now and just how they're getting punked by the Republican Party on matters of substance related to their families, their rights, and some cases their citizenship?
Yeah. Well, I think that answer is sort of twofold, because I have recently started sharing tweets where I break down what Trump promised versus what Biden delivered, and how Trump's promises were never delivered, but Biden is actually delivering the things that Trump promised them. And it's all based in fact, as these are numbers. I mean, it's indisputable. And it's very triggering, as you might imagine, to those who don't want to believe what is factual, because that's the other really big sort of prong of all of this, is this dismantlement of like facts and truth, because it's very easy to convince people to believe that Trump is devout or that Republicans are Christian or all of that if they want to believe.
Super Christian.
Right. Mega Christian.
Mega
Christian that we're going to drown people in barbed wire in the river. But that's how Christian we are. But yeah, so that's a huge component to, I think, them wanting to believe what they want to believe. But I also think the other side of this conversation, and I think it's really important, and I've had a lot of conversations with Republicans who I think share this opinion, and I hope you do too, but maybe you don't. I think at the end of the day that the bulk of Americans are not actually, they don't want this chaos and crazy. They don't have an appetite for this hair on fire. They're coming for your stoves and the kids are pooping in kitty litter boxes in school. And I know, again, I get a lot of criticism for being a little bit naive and maybe hopeful, God forbid. But at the end of the day, I don't think that what we see reflected in that MAGA base that is obviously very powerful, unfortunately, and very fear inciting for the rest of the people in their party. I don't think the country as a whole is actually there. I just don't.
Here's my response to that. And this is not to you directly, because you can't do what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Prove it.
Yeah.
The country has to prove it. And I'm not convinced they can or that they will. because damn near 8 to 10 million more voters voted for Trump in 20 than did in 16, not fewer. After everything we saw, everything we know, you've got, you know, the likes of Peter Navarro out with some, you know, fakakta ad today, basically, you know, warning us of what's going to happen if we don't, you know, get on the Trump train. Trump himself warning us, you know, if I go to jail or if I am convicted, you know, you aren't ready for what's going to happen. Well, all right, tell me what's going to happen, asshole. Tell me what's going to happen. And I'm not convinced that a lot more Americans are caught up in white grievance at this point, that going a little bit back to what you were saying before, that sense of this isn't the country that I grew up in. I don't know what country they think they grew up in. You know, all this, you know, all these cultural things are happening, you know, they're trying to make my kid gay, or they're trying to, you know, make my kid responsible for slavery. That's all projection. That's all bullshit projection. Because as I say to all those white parents, take your ass up in your child room and look at their Twitter feed, look at their social feed, and who they're engaging with, right? Who their friends are, who they're trying to dress like, whose styles they're mimicking, whose experiences that they're talking about. The multiculturalism that you're so afraid of, your actual kids are living, and they're not afraid of it. They're not running from it. But you have this sort of set up narrative that I just need to be convinced, and maybe 24 will. I don't know. But Joe Biden only won by 78,000 votes, not 8 million people, 78,000 over 3 states. And Republicans have a plan to flip those 3 states. And so my question is, will Americans actually allow that to happen? Or are they just going to overwhelm the system with their sense of democracy and the vibrancy of that democracy and the importance of that democracy and the importance of people like you and me in it, right? Because we're on the short list.
Yeah.
You and I are on the short list.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to the gulag the first round.
So, you know, I want them to believe we shouldn't be on any list. And I just need to be convinced enough. So that would be my answer to your hopefulness, which may be a little dark, but I just have been in this long enough to know and to see how people are responding and behaving, and it's troubling. It is troubling for me.
Well, let me ask you a question on your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. You are more than welcome.
Your insight on this. You've been around a long time. You've seen everything, right? But you've never seen anything. I remember in the early days of Trump, I remember you were one of the first people from your party that spoke up. And so I want to ask you, like, with all of your experience, with everything you've ever seen, is there any roadmap for navigating what we've seen since Donald Trump came down that escalator? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think the roadmap it really ties back to what I was just saying. And I put it this way, back in the during the course of the 16 to 20 period in the 2020 cycle, we are where we are because this is where we want to be. And I think what happens is the American people take themselves off the hook. But that's not how our founders designed this system. Our founders didn't design the system where the American people get to check out. Our system was deliberately designed to put the American people in play. That's why, in my view, the three most powerful words in all of the words of all of our documents, from the Constitution to the Articles of Confederation to the Bill of Rights, is we the people, because it is the cornerstone of everything else that comes. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Okay, that's the challenge. It's not we the government, I the president, we the administration. No, it's us. They put the onus on us. And so this idea that we somehow think we get to check out, and that just because I did my civic duty and I went and voted for Spanky, and now Spanky is showing his ass, I've got responsibility for that. And so I'm either going to tell Spanky, you need to come correct, or guess what? I'm going to correct the system by checking you out and putting someone else in. And that's the piece that I think a lot of folks underestimate to the point of ignoring, is that we have that responsibility. And what I've seen over the many years that I have been in politics is more and more people checking out and leaving the work to the people with titles and positions. They are the last people you want to leave the work to. You want to check the work with them. You want to be over them. You want to make sure that the work is getting done, and that's our responsibility. And I just don't think that we see that any longer the way previous generations did. And so now it's just become, and it's made even easier because of stuff like this.
Yeah.
Right. When we, my phone, I just whatever's there is there. And so I think we have to step up our civic responsibility a bit more, to excise the cancer. The patient has to want to have the cancer go away, right? And if you go to them and say, hey, here's the treatment, this is what you need to do, and their response is, I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens.
Okay. Let's roll on dice.
I'm good. Yeah, you know how that's gonna end.
Yeah.
So that for me is kind of how I look at it. How do you see the current field right now when you're looking at the Republican candidates? You're looking at, I don't know what the Democrats are doing. I mean, the fact that they're even entertaining Robert F. Kennedy. The Republicans it should tell Democrats all they need to know, that Republicans are embracing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Exactly. That should tell you everything you need to know about how much bullshit that whole thing is about. And yet and still, the man is sitting at 14-15% in Democratic primary polls.
It is. I mean, I don't know if you saw Jack Schlossberg's video, but I had never seen Jack Schlossberg speak. And what he said in his video about his cousin, and I had to do the math. I'm like, wait, how are they related? Right. He said, I know the man. Why anyone would think he should be president is beyond me. And it was a very powerful little video. But I mean, setting RFK Jr. aside for a second, because he's obviously, he's designed to take votes from Joe Biden. I honestly, I can't believe that the Republican field is the Republican field right now, because the only one of them, and I have lots and lots of thoughts on Chris Christie, but the only one of them, with Asa Hutchinson a little bit out there too, who really go after Donald Trump, is Chris Christie. And again, I have my own thoughts on Chris Christie, because he could have done all of this years ago, but whatever. Putting that aside too, what he's doing is actually helpful and important, and I agree with that, but I'm not a fan nonetheless. But Ron DeSantis's theory, which he must have the political instincts of, I don't know, a blobfish. He's running to the right of the guy he built his entire political career to mimic.
Right.
And think, where's the room in this lane? What are you doing? Like, I think Ron DeSantis, Rob DeSanctimonious, had a better lane, a real legitimate lane, and I can't stand the guy not running to the right of Donald Trump, being the one, the big donors and the regular old rhinos and maybe the establishment Republicans, if they still exist, could have and might support. But I think that ship has sailed. I think he's set the course for the wrong track now. I don't see it coming back. And apparently he doesn't want to listen to outside advisors.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't take any outside advice. Right.
He's listening to Casey. And if Casey's fashion choices are any indicator of Casey's political instincts, this is not the best strategy. But Nikki Haley said yesterday, she would support Donald Trump if he was the nominee in 2024. And I call Nikki Haley, and this is not a swear, the weathercock of weathercocks. She is the Marco Rubio in the female form when it comes to flip-flopping, former guy fawning, flaccid fucks. There it is. She's the worst. But they all have this chance to go after Trump, to differentiate themselves from Trump, to say, I am not this crazy. I don't want that. I want to govern and call it out. Not, well, I don't want to talk about that specifically, so I want to talk about something else. You can't do that. So I don't know what they're doing aside from repeating history and handing him the friggin' nomination, which now that we've seen this trial schedule of like all the trials he's going to have coming up, there's a possibility he might be like in an ankle cuff for the RNC. I don't know.
Oh, but he'll walk out on that stage with those ankle cuffs on and go, see what they're doing to me because of you. I'm here for you, baby.
I'm doing this for you. Why do you think I paid that porn star who spanked me with a magazine hush money? I did it for you. Those documents in my bathroom, those were for you.
Those were for you. I was going to share all the money I was going to get from Russia with you.
Yeah, I wanted to maybe sleep with my daughter for you.
I know.
Not touching that one.
It's just out there.
It's out there.
I heard it on the internet.
It's just out there. And so I think I am often accused of being a Biden stan. It is true. I thought he should have run in 2016, full disclosure. I really did. I understand why he didn't, but I do think he would have won in 2016. I think he has been an incredibly consequential president. I think the Democrats would be well served by doing more of the Dark Brandon, Biden unleashed, Biden drops F-bomb stuff. I think people like that. Yeah. So I think that they need to keep doing that. I think he's a strong candidate. I just think, obviously, I think the Republicans are handing it to Trump. They are. I mean, Christie's going to get up there and he's going to do a little bit of damage, but really, how much damage can he do?
Yeah, and I think there is the limitation with the debate coming up in about a month and I think the word is that Trump is not planning to attend. Well, a surprise, shocker. Gee, I never saw that coming.
I want to hear more about the nuclear triad.
The media, they report this shit like it's news. It's like, oh my God, I need you to stop and listen to what I'm about to tell you, because you will not believe Donald Trump may not appear at the debate. And oh my God, I just can't believe this. Okay, really?
And up next, water is wet. Yeah.
It just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. Well, JoJo from Jerz, this is my coffee and chocolate chip cookie moment. This has been such a treat for me to spend time to get to know you a little bit, to talk to you live and in person. So cool. It's so cool. I mean, you see these folks that you follow sometimes on Twitter and you're like, I wonder what they're like. I wonder if they're really as cool as they're coming up. You're really as cool as you come off to be. And
thank you.
It's so nice to have you come and share some thoughts. I've always believed in the art of what real people tell you. And they generally get it right when they let you know what's up, and that's what I appreciate about your conversations with the country is you're like, look, I'm just sitting here in Jersey trying to raise kids and y'all doing all this batshit crazy stuff. So I have a few things I want to say.
Yep. Just a few.
Yeah. Oh, she says that so sheepishly. Oh, just a few.
Just a few. But I want to thank you for continuing to be sane it
ain't easy.
Right? In what is a stormy sea of insanity that has overtaken the party I'm sure you still love, the party that, look, I was never a fan of your party, let's be honest, but at least I knew I could have a conversation. At least I knew your motivations were for, whether they were right or wrong, were driven largely by doing good for the American people. Right. And so thank you for sticking to that, for having that integrity. It is very reassuring for me to know that people like you are out there.
Well, our numbers are dwindling, but we're here.
You're down to like 6 people in a basement, but not.
Yeah, we are. Speaking of which, I got to go to a meeting in the basement. Got to figure out, do we have a party or not have a party? I don't know. Who's bringing chips? I don't know. I got the beer. That's all I was responsible for.
Just not Bud Light.
It's no, it's Bud Light. It's Bud to the light. Oh my God, I can't believe the crap we go after. But anyway,
seriously,
it's not serious at all. It's just so stupid. But I really appreciate you, and I thank you for joining me here on the podcast. Folks, definitely check out JoJo on Twitter at JoJo from Jerz. You mentioned some of the other work you're doing as well. What are some of those projects you're working on right now?
So I work with Red, Wine, and Blue, which is an organization driven largely by suburban women, and we're trying to push back against right-wing extremism, but also really advocating for reproductive rights, advocating for freedom of speech, for not book banning. But so that's one thing, and that's a huge part of my life. But I also have my own podcast. Maybe you'll join me. I was going to mention. Yep, go ahead. That's Are You Effing Kidding Me? Which is really shocking for that to be the title of my podcast. Even my ex-husband said that's the perfect name for your podcast. So that hopefully you'll come on and talk to me on. I
would love to come on. Yay. Absolutely. No, we'll make that happen. We'll make that happen.
And I have a newsletter on Substack of the same name, where daily musings, it's essentially my tweets, but in much longer form. And I try and get those out every day of the week. And it's Are You Effing Kidding Me on Substack. So those are my big projects. Yeah.
Check out Are You Effing Kidding Me with JoJo from Jerz. Great podcast. I'm looking forward to being on it. And now that I've invited myself. And
I invited you.
You did.
I'm going to hold you to it.
No, it's done. I'll let my team know that we're going to make that happen. But again, I really thank you for taking time to come on the Michael Steele podcast and sharing a few words with us.
This was honestly such an honor. I feel really, I feel like, I don't know, gifted with this opportunity because I'm a big fan.
I'll make sure the check has an extra 0. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I still have my OnlyFans. That one's for my trolls in my meth house.
I love it. All right, folks. Well, that does it for this time together. It's always a blast when we get together, and I appreciate you dropping in to do that thing you do. Download, makes a brother feel real yummy inside. Check out the podcast at Steele_podcast, me at Michael Steele on Twitter, that dying institution. I'm over on Thread now too, so you can catch me there. But anyway, folks, until next time, be safe. Find a cool space because it's hot as hell outside. Don't overdo it. There's no need to think you're Superman. There's only one Superman. So, anyway, take care, y'all. Till next time.